How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawks fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing at you with some Jayhawks Daily content. First off, I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to tune in. If you have not already and you love college basketball content, you love Kansas college basketball content, hit that subscribe button down below to the Jayhawks Daily channel. We're on the race to 1,000. We're getting so close. Thank you guys so much for the push lately and tuning in. And if you have already subscribed, welcome back. We're going to be talking about, yes, addressing some of the comments, doing a little bit of a deeper dive into, one of the players that y'all mentioned, trying to, include what you guys are interested in, see how that they might fit for KU, talk about it on the pod, and, who also went portaling for KU and how the kind of the updates for all the KU portal players are looking right now. And then we've obviously got a lot of guards in this portal, and we've only got one guard kind of on the roster. Cole's kind of a wing guard. And we've only got one guard coming in, another one's wing guard with Trent Perry. So, yeah, guard wanted. That's the sign up, right? With a lot of people's faces on it, I will say. But guard wanted is absolutely one for sure. But first off, we're going to talk about Joe Hagarty, 8396, mentioned, what about DJ Wagner over at Arkansas? He's a guard, had, 3 years under Calipari. That usually is enough to get you drafted. I mean, it's usually enough to get you $25 million immediately. DJ Wagner, that's not the case. And it's an interesting one. He followed him from Kentucky a couple years ago. He was the number 4 recruit in that recruiting class. And, he's a dominant, he was a dominant player in high school. And I remember the quotes coming out when Cal was saying, "This is the best guard. This is the best prospect I've ever gotten." Well, I remember Bill saying that at the beginning of the year, Darren Peterson's the best project we've ever seen. So I'm really wondering, with a guy like Cal, who's coached Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, John Wall, Tyrese Maxey, and this guy's saying DJ Wagner is the best one he's ever seen. It blew me away. And I was looking for him 24/7, every game, looking for his impact. He couldn't shoot that well. He was ball dominant, but crazy athletic, really good finisher, good basketball IQ. So he has pieces and everything. But to be honest, I just don't see him as a fit. I'm not a big DJ Wagner guy. He's got 1 year of college eligibility left. Yes, he was at once upon a time a 5-star recruit. He was, like I said, a top 5 recruit in the entire nation. And he's been coached by Cal as a guard, coached by Cal. That's amazing. He's played 100 games in his career. Plenty under his tool belt, ready to carry it on and help whatever team he goes to. But last year, it was one of his most efficient years. He shot 34% from 3 last year. Got his field goal percentage up to his career high at 43%. But that's not an incredibly efficient mark. And, he got a little bit of time off the bench, a little bit of the time starting. Arkansas kind of got loaded up with some guards that, didn't really see an opportunity for him. Obviously, Acuff went off, and Wagner saw a huge decrease in minutes because no one's taking him away from what's going to be a top 5 pick in Acuff. He didn't do enough of the other things for me to say, you know what, this is the guy that Kansas absolutely has to go after. I think there are too many guards out there that would be a better fit in many ways, and I agree. I think it was. I can't remember who responded to them in the comment section, but it was a great point to the fact that he's too ball dominant. With Taylor Kinney coming in, he's going to need to. With potentially Tyron Stokes, that's another ball dominant player. But more than that, we got to be able to attract people in the portal, and that ball, that orange rubber, is the most attractive thing besides the green paper that everyone is promised to go in college basketball. They are wondering, how many times am I going to get to shoot that ball game? How many times am I going to get to dribble it up the court? That's almost invaluable. And that's the thing is, yes, you can get a whole bunch of money, but they can say, see that orb? Yeah, you're not touching it. It's, you'll get paid a lot of money and we'll use you, but you're not going to be the top guy touching that ball. That's where you can sell people. And if you get a guy like DJ Wagner that currency is devalued very heavily, just considering the fact that that's a lot of possessions. That's a lot of usage rate. That's not something that I think KU is willing to give up. I think they're willing to give it up for a guy like Tyron Stokes. Obviously, it seems like Flory's kind of on that same train. It seems like Tiller's kind of on that same train. If Tyron Stokes comes in, it seems like they don't really want to be the guy's number 3 or 4. Like Tyron Stokes is going to be the number 1. I don't think Taylor Kinney by any means has promised being number 2, but it would be, I'd be okay with that. I'd prefer him to be, the 4th best scorer or something like that, and you could really fill in with a big man in a guard or a wing. But that's what I'm saying is that ball is the currency, and to entice people to come into your program, you've got to say this ball is going to be in your hands a significant amount, and if it lines up with their goals, then it works. But a guy like DJ Wagner, he's okay off ball, but like I said, not the best of shooters. Is a pretty drive heavy, penetrate first kind of player. Doesn't blow it off the charts in the assist column. I don't see him being a perfect fit. I see plenty of other guards that'd be a much better fit for KU, and we'll see at that point. We'll see. This is early in the portal. Yes, we're seeing a couple commitments. Providence College getting 2 huge commits last night. Grabbing the Defensive Player of the Year in the Mountain West Conference and Miles Bird, and then grabbing a former G League player who, again, off the ear, that sounds a little wrong, but this guy, he's never signed any two-way deal, never signed any NBA-related deal, went when he was 17. He was a top 30 recruit, just went when he was 17 to go play a couple years, never signed with any NBA team, and is now going with, I believe, a couple years of eligibility. So a little bit different scenario. I would say of all the scenarios we've heard this past year about former NBAs and G Leagues and European and all that, that is one of the easiest stories that I think I can buy into, for the fact that you're not putting pen to paper saying I have intent to play at the professional level for this team. To me, you're good in my book, but the ball is starting to roll. Unfortunately, right after I mentioned it, JP Estrella goes to Michigan, a huge get, probably gets the most coveted big man in the transfer portal besides Flory Badunga. Probably the most interesting prospect, though, just based on the fact that he had pretty limited minutes and put up pretty great numbers in those minutes. So great get for Michigan. They're replacing, what they need in that front court, which is just more players because they're going to be leaving. But fantastic get and unfortunate. And, another one that, it's kind of interesting to the point, and, we'll talk about it next, is, the portal options. We'll get to it bigger rather than just DJ Wagner. Well, to speak to KU, Sam East has added to the list of portals. And it's just Cole. It's just Cole Rosario. It's the Will Smith looking around his living room and it's a completely empty meme. It's everything you want to call it because it's just Cole Rosario. But my sources are saying that Cole Rosario is very, very, very likely to return next year. So it looks like we might have one retained player into next year. Not locked down, but it seems like that will be a big piece. And you know me, that gets me pumped. Imagine just like this. You keep one player from a year. Come on, say that 10 years ago, and you get that reaction. Unbelievable. But that's where we are. It seems like Cole Rosario is going to stay. And Sam East jumps in the portal. Paul, I believe, is 50-50. They say he entered the portal, but yet maybe his paperwork wasn't filed. I don't know. To my knowledge, Paul had entered the portal, and now people are saying, well, hold off on that. Not quite. And it kind of brings up the point that I saw it somewhere. What's the point of, recruiting all of these top freshmen? And I don't even mean the top 25, Sally's Caldwell was top 80, 75 or something like that. Barely played, didn't get his playing time, and he wants to transfer. Well, what's the point of recruiting these guys if they're once they find out they're not going to play and they're going to transfer? You really only need a couple of the freshmen because the rest of them they're going to be gone next year anyways. I mean, obviously it's a dramatic example. Sami's on contrary could have got some playing time. Bill could have played him. I would have liked that, but he didn't. He sees what's going to be best for him out there, and who knows? It could be KU still, but it's just frustrating. No one wants to go along with the project, and it's not even like a coach leaves or anything like that. How can you not stick around for one more year saying, you know what, I saw great promise in you. I think like maybe they really don't gel with his coaching style. Maybe they really want that other currency, that basketball. I don't know what it is, but you know, we're doing a little update on all of the KU portal options. Bryson Tiller is looking heavily into Missouri. Yeah, I know. To hold back the throwing up. Honestly, if he goes there, fine. I'd much rather him go to Missouri than any other school, and that may sound off, but like to the fact that like get out of here. Go. Underperform and under succeed at a program like Missouri. Completely fine with me. Get the heck out of my conference. I'd love to see you shrink in the moments, but I'd also love to see you come back because like you were developing into such a great player as a freshman. But it looks like he's looking pretty heavily out there. Looks like why is everyone of one of our players getting a talk from Michigan? Michigan's looking into Tiller. That would be no, no, no. You can't join the national champion. That's too good. Too good. Flory Badunga has his visit today, I believe, at Louisville, getting serious looks from St. John's, Duke, and as well as Michigan as well. He's getting serious looks. I hear Texas Tech is kind of pulled out of the race after being one of the heavy leads in the beginning. I mean, it just keeps coming. I've heard no news on the Marco Jackson or Jamar McDowell front. I've heard no news at all. Sources aren't saying anything about where those guys are looking, what the interest might be. And, it kind of brings to this point, and then obviously, like I mentioned, Paul and Bia, we are very unsure. Also, another one I forgot to add on this list was Jaden Dawson joins the transfer portal. Yeah, the guy who had a senior night. So, I mean, again, in his defense, he made a really bad choice coming to Kansas for his senior year, for his last year of eligibility. He played like 40 minutes, like that, maybe one game. He played more than that, but maybe 2 total games in minutes-wise. And it's unfortunate. That's how his career is going to end after playing a lot for Loyola Chicago, being a great player in his last year. Is abysmal. It's no good. And he's looking for eligibility. All credit to you, man. Let's see what they tell you. I have a feeling they're going to say, dude, I'm sorry. That sucks. You didn't have an injury. You didn't have anything. You just didn't have playing time, and that happens sometimes, so I'm sorry. And that's what's going to happen. Now, Melvin, well, that'll be an interesting one. He hasn't entered the portal. He hasn't done anything because I think he really is trying to figure out what that waiver could be. He's going to figure it out. We're holding out for potentially Melvin. Who knows? Who really knows? I mean, there's a chance. I'm not going to rule it out, but Jaden Dawson was a surprising one because he's a senior. He has no eligibility left. He's kind of doing what Ian Shefflin did before for Clemson last year, before going on to the football team, may I say, which didn't turn out well. But he's looking for one more year eligibility. If he gets it, good for him. But, it's KU. That's what I'm saying. They portaled. We're not portaling. We're not bringing in anything. Everyone portaled out. They took that time portal. They said, see ya. And maybe they'll talk to us again. Maybe they'll pop back in and say, hey, you guys mind? I got this offer. It's not really what I was looking for. I'm coming back. Maybe we have the door open. Maybe not. But all I know is we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of players to replace. A lot of scholarships opened up. A lot of money opened up. We got to start building a roster because I believe by the end of this weekend, people are going to start filling things out. You know what's happening? Do not contact tags are being placed. Do not contact tag placed on Masamba Chop. Is that for us? I don't know. But that's not a great sign. Another one on David Punch, a huge transfer from TCU that would have been a perfect fit at KU. I know all KU fans are distraught over the fact that we didn't even seem like to get a chance or put in a real effort for a guy like David Punch. Honorable mention, Big 12. I don't even need to get into the accolades. He's just a perfect player. He had so many blocks, so many rebounds, versatile offensive player. Do not contact tag for him. Santos Ciro, do not contact tag. Like, where are all these guys going that they are promised already that they say, I'm sold? And why don't they just commit? Why do they just say do not contact? If it's not to be contacted and it's not to boost kind of the bidding, I don't know why it's not a commitment. I don't know. I'm not too involved in the NCAA eligibility and other requirements and whatnot. I don't understand it just as much as you. I'm looking at everything in the world to try to figure out what it means. All it means is they shouldn't be engaged with other schools or other agents. That's all I could get out of it. So it'll be interesting to see. But this portal, it's closing, but it's very open. There's still a bajillion players in there, but it's closing. People are losing opportunities because they're getting the words that they want to hear, so they're saying I'm out. Do not contact me anymore. I'm good. And it's not just I'm following my coach. It's I've heard a good enough number, a good enough offer. You don't need to talk to me anymore. So we need to start doing that for these players, and maybe we already have. Maybe we are one of those players, but from what I'm hearing from my sources, it doesn't sound like we've got any firm type of commitment from any player by any means. It seems like we're very much pursuing Isaiah Johnson from Colorado. Seems like we were pursuing Estrella, as Michigan just came in there and swooped. But again, it leaves us with nobody. We don't have anybody, and now all fans we're clamoring for somebody. Like everyone is left. Again, they're out the door. The door's not fully closed, but they're waiting for the bus stop to get to their next school, and then they can always turn around and say, actually, I'm not going to go today. I'm going to stay. But the house is empty. It's just Cole Rosario, and they're like, come on, guys. Like, can a bus stop come by and bring any new friends, or can my old friends come back? Like, they need somebody. So, to that point, like I said, guard wanted. Who should we grab? Who should we grab? We talked about DJ Wagner earlier. I think it's impossible not to mention John Blackwell, like I said again. The thing with John Blackwell is it's 1-year eligibility. And that we have to figure out what we want to do. If we want to get a couple years of eligibility guys, or if we want to do what we did kind of last year, which is just get the 1-year eligibility guys. It puts us back in this position again, but you get pretty mature players. I kind of like a mix of both. I think depending on the position, I wouldn't mind, a 1-year eligible guard, maybe 2 years eligible guard. Like, you can't turn a guy down like John Blackwell. All Big Ten, 2-time All Big Ten tournament, Big Ten All Freshman team. When he was freshman, he puts up numbers. He's played at Wisconsin 3 years, 2 years as a starter. Averaged 19 this past year while shooting 39% from three on 7.5 attempts. That's what you want. A couple of assists, so more of a shooter than a passer, but he fights for rebounds. Pretty solid defender. He scores at will at the rim, all three levels, I would say. It's a guy you really got to look for. It's a guy you got to make turn down. I'm hearing heavily linked to Illinois, Indiana right now. Makes sense. It seems like he may want to make some more ruckus in the Big Ten, kind of show Wisconsin, you know what, we couldn't win here. I don't even know. Does he not like them? Who knows over there? But who's another guard? I mentioned it yesterday. Rob Wright. You have to put out an offer that he has to refuse. In some way, he has to refuse it. I think he's too good of a player to let slip through the cracks again, going from Baylor to BYU, staying in conference, and then, just still being available. You got to go after a guy like that. It seems like he's being heavily pursued by a couple schools, Arkansas being one of them. That's going to be a big one that you've got to sway away from. Not that he's from there or anything. It's just, how do you say, hey, don't, I know you're a guard, don't go play for Calipari and go make, $200 million in a couple years, because that's what it seems to be. Well, Bill Self can create some as well, and I see Rob Wright. I see him play at these other schools. He'd be so good in a Kansas uniform. But, don't hit me with that PJ Haggerty. A lot of points, a lot of money. I don't think, we could have had him. We could have gone for him last year. Went for K-State. I don't want K-State's leftovers. No, thank you. We mentioned Juke Harris. Mentioned Isaiah Johnson. I think Isaiah Johnson would be a huge one. That's not going the route of, more senior type player. That's, going a couple years of eligibility left. Build this guy. Isaiah Johnson reminds me a lot of, a little bit of Frank Mason, aggressive, maybe a little bit less of the three-point shot, but, a great scoring guard, little undersized, just super athletic. I see him fitting in, almost all over the place with this team. But looks like, Jackson Shellstat leaving Oregon is going to go to Louisville. And the last one I'm very interested in potentially would be Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU. If anyone can come back down 19 points to beat UNC in the tournament, you're welcome on Kansas. That's why we got that banner right there, making a comeback over UNC. That guy was hitting the big shots, going nuts, going nuclear, and I believe he's got a couple years of eligibility left, at least 2. Guy like that shoots at a pretty high clip, over 38% from three, average about 18. That's a guy I'd want. That's a guy who can replace Melvin, play next to Talon, whoever it may be. We just got to find one because we need players. We need our Cole Rosario, our Will Smith in this character, to have the rest of his friends show up, to have, bring whatever they've got. We need players. We need players desperately. So thank you guys so much for continuing to tune in. I'll still be looking all around, hearing from my sources, hearing from anything, trying to get some semblance of where this roster might be constructed. But keep letting me know in the comment section down below. I want to look into any player you guys are interested in. I'll do a deeper dive like I did on Wagner today. Please hit me in the comment section down below who you might want to have back, or if you're just completely done with somebody, let me know about that. And thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let's keep pushing subscribers to get to 1,000. But thank you very much. In Rock Chalk, go Jayhawks.